What's up guys, my name is Saib and welcome to another episode of this Canvas game development series. Since we've talked about the mouse in the previous episode, I thought it's only fair that we make an episode for keyboards as well. And today we're gonna look into the keyboards events that we can use in our canvas that we're gonna make a lot of use in our games for those keyboards events. And we're gonna try to move an object in our canvas that just we move it in our canvas so that we feel like we're actually using the keyboard to move an object, same like we're going to do that in games. If a player is going to move around, we're going to use the keyboard arrows as well. So yeah, okay, talking about the keyboard events, we're going to use only two keyboard events, but there are much more than those two. So let's try to add an event listener the same way that we did in the previous episode, the mouse one, and try to see how we can actually use the keyboards keys in order to actually do something in our canvas. So now let's say that I want to use the window object, since I'm not using the canvas, since there's nothing to move around in here, or it's not specific to the canvas, it's only for the window object. So yeah, now I'm gonna add an event listener. As we said, it's gonna listen to an event, and if that event is heard, a function is gonna be implemented, or the event handler is gonna be executed. So simply I'm gonna use the first keyboard event, which is the key down that way. We have also key up. Now the key down event is used, or it's gonna fire up when we actually press on a key. That means we press down on that key. Key up is the opposite. If we released our finger from that key, or just pressed or just unclicked or unpressed on that key. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. So now let's try to use the key down. There's also a key press, and that one is only for characters on the keyboard, so it won't do anything if you clicked on the space or the tab, or on the backspace for instance. But we're not gonna make a lot of use for that, since key down and key up are just enough for this series. So yeah, so let's say that I clicked on a key, then I'm gonna call another function. I'm gonna name it key pressed, for instance, key pressed, that way. Okay, now let's define the key pressed function. Same as the mouse, we're gonna pass in an event argument. In our case, this event argument is a keyboard event object, or just a keyboard event argument that's gonna allows us or gives us access to a lot of properties that we're gonna use in that's related to the key events. So yeah. Okay, so let's say now that I want to click on a certain key on our keyboards, and I want to just alert our HTML document so that we get an alert for that this key is pressed. So let's say that I want to click on the S one, and let's see what browser is going to react to that. So simply I'm just going to go with if, and now I'm going to use the properties of the event arguments, or the keyboard event argument, and it's called the key code. Now every value in our, or every key in our keyboard has a number associated to it, and we use key code in order to actually refer to that. So for instance, the S is 83 on the keyboard, so if I just equal that with 83 on the keyboard, this is the S1. So I'm gonna alert with, I'm gonna say the S key is pressed. It's pressed like that. So now if I saved, and if I go to the canvas, if I clicked on the S key is pressed. If I clicked on any other key, nothing shows up, because the 83 number is associated with the S, as I said. So yeah, the S is gonna, every time I click, it's gonna alert, the event is gonna be heard, then this function will be executed, or the event handler will be executed. So yeah, okay, the same goes for any other number. For instance, if I use 65, it's gonna be the A. And so that I'm gonna leave a reference to a table that, or you can use just mdn, and you can just say key code, for instance, and you're gonna go to the bottom of this page, and you can use all of the, now this is the value that's associated with each digit. If you looked at Z, for instance, it's 90, so if I replace that with 90 and I said Z key is pressed, now if I clicked S, nothing happens. If I clicked on the Z key is pressed. So yeah, you can refer to that table. but mainly we're going to use the arrows. So the arrows are associated with from 37 until 40, which is for the 4 arrows. But it's good that you know some of the, don't memorize it, you just refer to it. So okay, now that we went through that, let's try to do it with the arrows. Since as I said, the arrows are the most important thing in for us to use in this series, since it's going to be used for moving objects in the game, or just a player, or any other thing in the gameplay. So yeah, okay, I'm going to use the same event listener, key down, key pressed. Now I'm going to use that for, I'm going to make a switch statement. Switch, since I'm going to have 4 cases for each arrow. So now I'm going to say, okay, what happened? Switch statement, and it's going to be E key code. Now you should know that key code is not the only properties for the keyboard event argument. We have a char code that's related to the ASCII code, and we have the control and alt and shift key, which is associated if we clicked on the control alt, it returns to if we clicked on control alt or shift. And we have the meta key, in which is the command key for Mac, and Windows key for the Windows one. So yeah, you can look at them. I'm gonna leave a reference to that as well, so you can read more about them. And yeah, it's good that you know actually you know these kind of things. So yeah, okay, now we key code. Now I'm gonna use the case which is 37. Now this number is associated with the left arrow, so now I'm just gonna say let's start to console log that one. I'm gonna say left arrow is clicked or pressed, it's fine, and we break this is a switch one. And now let's try to use another case, instead 8 for instance. Okay, let's try to copy those and just to save the video's time, and I'm gonna copy and paste for the other 2 cases, in which is we have 4 cases for the 4 arrows. Okay, that way. Okay, now the 38 is for the up arrow, and 39 is gonna be, and this is 40. Okay, 39 is gonna be for the right arrow, and the last one of course for the down one. Now if I saved and tried to go to inspect and console that way, and now let's try to click on the up, you're gonna see up arrows clicked, down, left, right, that way, right again, right, left, down, up, and left, everything. Okay, everything seems to be pretty straightforward until now. Everything's fine. So what we're gonna do now is try to make an app, same as the drawing thing in the mouse, but in the keyboard we're gonna move an object. We're gonna draw a rectangle in here, we're gonna move that one across our canvas area, and let's see how we can do this. Okay, if we cleared everything, the first thing we're gonna do is draw our rectangle. So I'm gonna make a function for that. It's gonna be called draw rectangle. Simply that way. It's gonna draw rectangle. Okay, begin path. Nothing here is gonna be a new thing. We've done all of that in the previous episodes. So now if we use the rect method, let's try to position that one, say 150 and 150. Let's give it a width of 150 and a height of 80 for instance, make an rectangle. Now I'm gonna specify a line width for the stroke, say 5, and now let's give it a line width, a stroke style, and let's use a new color. The stroke we can make it gray for instance, and we're gonna call the stroke one to actually stroke that one. Of course we're not gonna see it until now because we haven't called the draw rectangle function. So yeah, now let's give it a fill style. I want this one to be orange, same as in the mouse one. So now let's fill that one and call our function to see our rectangle. Okay, everything's let's increase the line width since this is not really showing up. Okay, everything is fine until now. We have this rectangle. So okay, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna deal with the keyboard. We can do this simply by following 3 steps. We're gonna listen to an event as we've done in the previous example, which is the key down, and we're gonna then inside the event handler that's gonna get called if the keyboard event is heard. Then we're gonna update the position of our rect with the offset of our the offset that we specify when we click any of the arrow keys. So simply let's add an event listener, which is the first thing. So I'm gonna use the window again and add event listener. The event is gonna be key down, as I said. And now let's call this move rectangle. Okay, let's come up with a definition for that one. Move rectangle, we pass in the keyboard event argument so that we access the properties that we're going to use, such as the key code for the keys pressed, so that we refer to any number of the keys so that it actually fire up or just execute. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do in here is make a switch statement. I don't know why I erased the first one, because it's going to be the same. Okay, now E, and it's going to be key code. And case 37, for instance. Okay. Now I'm not gonna console log anything. I'm just gonna denote that so we can see what exactly happens when we move him. Okay, I'm gonna copy the whole thing again for all of the 4 cases that we're gonna have. 38 and 39 and 40. 40 is for the down one, 39 is for the right one, okay, and 38 is gonna be for the up. Okay, what we're exactly gonna do now is introduce 2 new variables that specify the offset that I'm gonna use. And yeah, so let's say that I want offset x, for instance. Let's give it 0 value, initialize that one, and offset y, initialize that one as well. So now if I clicked on the left one, I want to move my my rectangle to the left one, so I'm gonna decrease the x's the x coordinates for the rectangle so that it actually moved to the left. So we're gonna specify now the offset. So every time I click, I want this offset to be 5, for instance. 5 seems fine. So what I'm gonna do in here is simply I'm just gonna specify an offset x, and I'm gonna decrease that 2. Now if I moved up, since the y axis, that one is inversed, that means we're gonna increase if we went down, we're gonna decrease if we go up. So again, decrease 1 for the y. Okay, let's say 5y2. Okay, and then we're gonna specify the offset. Now if we're moving to the right, I'm gonna increase the x-axis, so yeah, it's gonna be 5 that way. And lastly, it's gonna be for the down, we're gonna increase the y offset by 5. Okay, so what I need to do now is update the draw rectangle, that one, with these values such as the offset for x and y. So I'm gonna increase that with the offset x. So the value is gonna be the offset x and y. Those values are gonna be altered according to which arrow key I pressed, and they're gonna be either increasing the x and y values, or decrease it in order for the x to go back or front, or for the y to go up and down. And I'm gonna use that with the offset y, like that. So now if I try to do it, nothing exactly happened, because I want this to move, and when I clicked on each key. So I'm gonna take my draw rectangle, that one, and do it in here. I'm gonna save it, because every time a key is down, I want this draw rectangle to redraw again. We're not gonna use the animation one in here. It's not really it's just a simple app. It's not gonna be like an actual one or an effective one. So yeah, now if I try to move this, I'm gonna see move. Okay, why is this happening? Because we haven't cleared the canvas area. So when we redraw, it's gonna keep the trace from the previous draw of the previous frame. So what we have to do in here is the clear rect, same as the mouse when we did that one. So canvas.width and canvas.height. So we clear and then we draw so that everything is not Okay, so movement until now seems fine. It moves in the four sides, the up and down, four directions, the up and down, and the right and the left. Well, now if you try to click on both keys, like let's say that I wanted to move it diagonally to the upright, that one, if I clicked on the up and the right one, you can see that it doesn't actually do it, because it uses a switch statement. This switch statement is a downside in this application, because in games and interactive applications, or interactive, just interactive things, we need to have the smooth motions or an ease control over an object. So if I want this to move diagonally, I want to click on two keys at once, which is not in the case in this app, since for this takes only one case. I hope that makes sense. So I want now to alter this behavior and to make it more than an ideal implementation of moving an object. This is a simple one. So the way we can do this is by using the second event, keyboard event that I told you about, which is the key up, so that we click on a keyboard, then we release it, and I'm gonna alter that behavior with an array. I'm gonna call it keys. So let's say okay, let's clear that one, since I'm not gonna be using switch again. I will only be using if and not if else, since I told you there may be two cases together that are actually happening, so I'm gonna use a lot of ifs statements. Okay, so let's keep the offset x and y. Now I'm gonna introduce a new variable, which is an array. So it's gonna be keys and an array. Now I'm gonna every time a key is down, I'm gonna store that key in keys array and give it a value of true, so that it's actually implemented. And every time I release it, I'm just gonna add an event listener, that one, which is key up, and I'm just gonna say, okay, let's put that to key pressed, and that one to key released. So that's actually clear. Okay, so let's try to actually just rename that one. I'm gonna keep the door rectangle thing in here, sorry. Okay, every time a key is pressed, like that one, I want to add that element, or add this member into an array, in which is e.keycode, like that, and I'm gonna give it a value of 2. That means this key is clicked, we press down on that key. So now let's say if, we're gonna give an if statements. Okay, so now we can assign the values of our key codes. So simply we can give the first key code. Now let's say keys, and I'm gonna access the first condition, which is 7, which is the left one. So okay, let's do left, and we're gonna decrease our delta with that value of 5, for instance, 5. Okay, now let's make another f. We're not gonna use else, because as I said, we may have two cases that are together. Let's say that I'm clicking on the up and right one, I want to move diagonally to the upright. So yeah, using if statements only. So now I'm gonna access the other one, which is the 38, and the 38 is gonna be the down one. So I'm just gonna say okay, down, and for the 38, the offset of y is gonna decrease by 5, and f keys now 39. Now, as I said, if I clicked on any key, it's going to be stored in the keys array and given a value of 2. That means it's clicked. I'm going to alter that to a value of false in the key up when it's released, so that it's no longer actually happening, or no longer clicking on that key. So, and I'm having all of these conditions for the keys. If they are actually in this array, we alter the offset so we can update it in our rectangle, so that we have a smooth motion for this rectangle that you're going to see now. Okay, now 39 is the case of right, so I'm just gonna give it an offset x. I'm gonna increase it by 5. Lastly, we have the f, and we're gonna say keys. It's gonna be the 40, and this one is for the up arrow, like that, and it's gonna be the offset y increased by 5. Okay, everything seems fine until now. Let's now come up with a definition for the key released. Okay, so this is a simple one. We're just gonna key released like that, and add an event. Now what we're gonna do in here is simply just keys and e.keycode and give it a value of false, so that let's say that we clicked on 37, which is the left arrow. Now it's gonna be stored in keys and given a value of true. If I release that, it's gonna alter that one and give it a false, so 37 is gonna be passed in here and given a value of false. I hope that makes sense, because this is really simple, it's not complicated. So okay, now everything seems to work just fine. If we try to implement it, and okay, I'm saving that one. Now if we try to move it, you can see now that I'm moving diagonally in 2 and more than 4 directions. Okay, we have the up, we have the down, we have the right, we have the left one, and we have the other ways. If we want to move that like that, we can speed up that one by increasing the offset. So yeah. Okay, one last thing that I want to talk about is the keyboard events. That's from a browser's point of view. So let's say that I want to increase the height of our canvas, so let's say 1000, like that. Now you're gonna see that I have a scroll for up and down. Now if I try to move in our rectangle in that way while focusing on the browser, so if I was right and left, everything's fine. Up. Now if I move down, you can see that it's actually the keyboard down, the down keyboard is sketched by the browser. This is a keyboard event that scrolls down the page. So how we can exactly solve that, if I want to prevent the browsers from actually listening to the keyboard events, in our case, in our application, so that it doesn't affect the gameplay. So you see, if I'm clicking down, the page is scrolling. If I'm going up, it's gonna scroll up, and this is not a good thing in a game. So what we're gonna do is simply call the E, which stands here for the keyboard event object, and I wanted to prevent the fault. What this exactly does, it's gonna prevent the browser's defaults for reacting to the keyboard events, which means now that the browser won't react to our keyboard. So if I click down, it's not gonna scroll down. Bear in mind that this is not also for the movement. Now if I try to use the shortcuts in the mouse, such as Ctrl+C for copying or Ctrl+B for pasting, for copy and paste, this won't actually work because we stopped all of the reaction to our keyboard events in our browser. So yeah, this may save the gameplay, but of course it won't react to any keyboard events that we might have. I think this is everything about the keyboard. This is actually a simple application. It's not much efficient. We're gonna do it more efficiently in games, or in a more efficient way. So yeah, I hope this is simple, not as complicated as the mouse one, since we don't have any exact location or anything, just keys and clicking on those, and we just alter the application logic or the game logic. And yeah, so 2 events, key down, key up. Just bear in mind using the key table for each key and its associated number. I'm gonna leave a reference to that, and I hope this makes sense, and I'll see you in the next episode.